as a trainer, as a gym owner, the responsibility falls on your shoulders to differentiate yourself in a way that you are no longer seen as a commodity. It's your job to differentiate yourself, to put yourself at a higher level where people are attracted to you, where people are magnetically pulled to you, and they want to do business with you and will pay your fee no matter what it is, even if it's higher than all of your competitors.
Welcome along to the ABC Financial Intensive Series. I'm your host, Chantal Broderick. Our intensive shows are designed specifically to be like a short course, where you'll learn practical information throughout the episode. Our expert guest for this show is the founder and chief executive officer of Advantage and Forbes books, Adam Witty. Adam has authored and co-authored several books, including Lead the Field, How to Become an Authority and Dominate Your Competition, 21 Ways to Build Your Business with a Book, and the book that we're speaking about today, Authority Marketing, How to Leverage 7 Pillars of Thought Leadership to Make Competition Irrelevant. Adam was named to the Young Presidents Organization 40 Under 40, the 50 Most Progressive, and he was named to the 2011 Inc. magazine's Under 30 list of America's coolest entrepreneurs. During this intensive show, Adam shares the 7 pillars to Advantage Marketing. In part 1, we discuss authority marketing and how a gym owner can use it in their business. In parts 2 and 3, Adam steps us through the 7 pillars of authority marketing. And in part 4, he'll share with us a case study of a fitness business that's using this methodology, plus 3 actions that you can do to start using authority marketing in your business today. If you are new to our intensive shows, then here are a couple of quick tips for you. Tip number 1 is make sure that you grab something you can write notes down on. Pen, paper, phone, laptop, whatever you like. Just make sure that you get organized ahead of time. And tip number 2, once you've listened to the full show, then head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and download the free ebook. You can then work your way through the information there, or you can print off the ebook and use it as a training resource with your team. Plus, as always, I have included a link in the show notes so you can buy your very own copy of Authority Marketing or, of course, any of Adam's other books. Once again, just head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. We are about to get started, but first I want to say a huge thank you to our podcast partner, ABC Financial. To learn why top health and fitness facilities use ABC Financial to simplify their gym management and increase profitability, head to abcfinancial.com. Enjoy this week's interview with my special guest, Adam Witty. Adam, a super warm welcome. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure, and what a great honor to be with you.
Well, I'm very, very excited because marketing in itself is a topic that I'm personally very passionate about. And having read Authority Marketing, I know there is so much that our listeners are going to learn from this conversation that we have today. So let's start right at the very beginning. Can you explain to us what exactly is authority marketing and how could a gym owner use it within their business?
Yeah, so great question. I would guess that most of your listeners know what authority marketing is because they've seen it in action, but they actually may not know that it was really authority marketing. And certainly the formal term authority marketing, maybe they've not heard, or if they have, they probably don't know what the definition is. So let's start with a definition as if we were looking into Webster's dictionary. And the definition of authority marketing is the strategic and systematic process of positioning a person as a leader and an expert in their field to achieve outsized influence over all of their competition. So let me just stop there for a minute. So a couple of key things. It is the strategic and systematic process. Those are important words, strategic and systematic, of positioning a person as a leader and expert. Positioning is another really, really important word there. To be the leader and expert and have outsized influence. Influence is another really important word there, over their competition, right? So really, authority marketing is where you are positioning yourself as an authority, as an expert, as a thought leader on a topic, which then makes you the go-to person. It positions you, it allows others to see you as the expert, so they want to go to you first for the solution. And what it does is it puts you on a pedestal, and it puts you at a level that's far above all of your competitors. So that is the definition of authority marketing. And the really good news is that the dirty little secret, so for all of our listeners, let's not tell anybody else, but the secret is that authority can be manufactured. And what that means is that you've got to be an expert. You've got to know your stuff to be seen as an authority, but you can take strategic, systematic processes. You can put those in place. You can take tangible steps to position yourself as an expert each and every day. And that's what's so exciting about it, is that you have the power to position yourself as an authority in your marketplace.
I absolutely love this, Adam, and I'm really excited because we are going to, in sections 2 and 3, we're going to walk through the 7 pillars of authority marketing. But before we do that, can you share with us a case study or an example of someone who has done an exceptional job when it comes to authority marketing?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of examples that I'll use, and we'll start with people that probably a lot of our listeners have heard of. Mm-hmm. And then later in the podcast, I'll give you an example of a gym owner that specifically used authority marketing extremely successfully. So when it comes to a name that we might know, I'm going to start with Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. So Dave Ramsey is today seen as a thought leader, a guru. Of course, he's a radio host. He's now written a number of books. He commands very, very high fees for his consulting and his advice. He speaks all over the world. And Dave Ramsey is a guy that has strategically built himself as a financial authority. In fact, he is a guru to help people get out of debt. Another name in the same category that a lot of your listeners have probably heard of is Susie Orman. And the one thing I can tell you about Susie Orman is that in the late 80s and even into the early and mid 90s, Susie Orman was a rather ordinary financial advisor. And there are hundreds of thousands of financial advisors in the United States. And Susie Orman originally wrote a book. And the truth is, originally it was really just a booklet. It wasn't even a book. And she created a book, and she started giving this book out to prospects. And those prospects took notice of this book that she had given them and wanted to talk to her. They wanted to learn more, and in many cases, they actually wanted to do business with her. So this booklet turns into this book. And then after she had written, at this point now, 3 different books, she approached a producer at CNBC. And at the time, CNBC, the hosts of shows on CNBC were largely white males. And CNBC knew that they had to diversify their hosts, and they needed to appeal to a wide variety of demographics. And so they got an appeal in a letter from Susie Orman. She included a copy of all of the books that she had written. And she pitched herself as a host on CNBC, hosting a show where she provides financial advice to individuals, mostly business owners and entrepreneurs, a lot of whom, of course, are women. But she positioned herself as the host of this show. And so today, Susie Orman, quite frankly, is a household name that most people have heard of. Of course, they know her from now her books. They know her from the show that she hosted on CNBC for over 10 years. They know because they see her on TV all the time. She speaks all over the world. Now, the truth is, there's over 200,000 financial advisors in the United States alone. Was Susie Orman the best financial advisor out of those 200,000? I don't think she probably was. I'm going to doubt that she was. And I can tell you that there are a lot of financial advisors that actually don't think that she knows all that much about the business, and they question her expertise. The point that I want to make is that Susie Orman is a classic example of an individual that had the guts to go out and create authority status for herself. And by doing that, it helped her elevate her career, her status, and of course it opened up so many doors for her. It helped her take her life practically to a much, much higher level. It was authority marketing, and it was something that, quite frankly, she was able to manufacture on her own.
Adam, I suspect that there were a whole lot of the FBP family listening to that story, and there was one particular thing that to me just absolutely stood out, and that was the fact that in that example that Susie was able to differentiate herself and separate herself from a huge number of competition out there in the market. And any of our listeners know that the fitness industry is very similar. You know, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of fight to get that consumer dollar. And one of our biggest challenges is, what do we do to stand out from the crowd? What can we do to make someone choose our fitness business or our personal training services over everyone else? How can we become known, and how can we be that authority? And that example about Susie is great because it's proof that anything is possible. That this is actually possible to establish yourself. So with that in mind, let's talk through those 7 pillars and that structure that we can follow in this process, Adam.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll say before I share the 7 pillars, because you made such a great point. Financial advisors are seen as, I hate to use the word, commodities. That is that I live in Charleston, you live in Sydney, a listener might be in Chicago or LA. And if they go to Google, or if they still have the yellow pages and they open up the yellow pages.
Who still has the yellow pages?
I'm told there's some that still do.
They're holding things up.
But if you look for a financial advisor, at least in Charleston where I live, there's hundreds of them. If I look for a personal trainer, there's hundreds of them. In fact, I go to a gym and I have a personal trainer. And in the gym that I go to, which isn't that big, there's 9 different personal trainers for me to choose from. And that's just in one gym in Charleston. And so the point that I want to make is that the consumer sees you as a commodity. And what that means is that they think that you're just like everybody else that's a personal trainer or a gym owner. And because they think you're like everyone else, what that means is that they buy on price. And when they think that you're like everybody else, they don't buy the highest price, they buy the lowest price. And so you as a trainer, as a gym owner, the responsibility falls on your shoulders to differentiate yourself in a way that you are no longer seen as a commodity. It's your job to differentiate yourself, to put yourself at a higher level where people are attracted to you, where people are magnetically pulled to you, and they want to do business with you and will pay your fee no matter what it is, even if it's higher than all of your competitors. So Susie Orman is a great example because her industry is seen as very commoditized. And the truth is that the personal trainer, the gym industry, unfortunately is seen the same way. And so this really presents not only an opportunity, but a real onus on the gym owner that if you don't do something to dramatically differentiate yourself, you will be buried in a sea of what I would call sameness, where you look and feel just like everybody else. So the first thing I want to say about the 7 pillars of authority marketing is that they're not in any particular order. That's an important thing. The second thing I want to share is that not every person has to leverage all 7 pillars. depending upon what you want to achieve in your business, depending upon what your marketing goals are, you're going to put together a mix of these 7 pillars of authority marketing, and you're going to use some more than others, and there's 1 or 2 that you may not use at all. Now, let's dive into the 7. So I'll start with content marketing. Content marketing is publishing content that you've authored that positions you as an expert on that topic. And there's a lot of different forms of content marketing. Of course, one of my favorites and probably the most significant in the positioning that it gives you is when you author a book, right? When you write the book on the topic, people see you as an authority. They see you as an expert. And you've got to remember that, most people around the world, heavens, they struggle to write an email, let alone a 40,000 word book. And when you write a book on something, people see it as if you climbed Mount Everest. It's a really big deal. So a book is probably the ultimate form of content marketing. But there's many other forms of content marketing. That is authoring a blog. That is writing a newsletter. That is distributing and disseminating content through social media. That is a podcast. That is a vlog, which is a video blog. Speaking is also content marketing. So all the different ways that you can share your expertise and share your insight with an audience, that's content marketing.
So, Adam, I'm just going to jump in here quickly because I know this is a topic that I am personally very passionate about. And obviously the podcast for us has been our way of reaching out to the market and creating content in the market. And you said at the very beginning about the 7 pillars that we don't necessarily need to do all of these things. So I assume the same principle applies with these different forms of content. Do we go about and pick the area that we feel strongest in, whether we be a writer or whether we enjoy doing video, or do we first look at what our audience respond to the best and then create our content based on our market?
So what a brilliant question. As you just said, the object, and I'll use this analogy, if you were out fishing and you wanted to catch blue marlin, you'd want to bait the hook with the bait that the blue marlin want. You wouldn't bait the hook with the bait that you like. You would bait it with what the blue marlin like. And so if you think about your customer as the blue marlin that you're looking to catch, you need to publish and create content in the form that they're most likely to consume. And so whether that's a podcast, whether that's a book, whether that's a weekly or even a daily article, you need to do enough research with your target market to determine how do they want to consume educational content, how do they want to consume educational information, and then it's your job to deliver that educational information in the form that they find easiest to consume.
Team, there's your first action for today's intensive. Action number 1 is to find out how, and I'm also going to add in where, your customers consume their content. Okay, now back to the interview with Adam.
So let's move to the next pillar, and that is PR and media. And what I want your listeners to remember is that people don't believe what you say about yourself, but they do believe what other people say about you. And people really believe what the media say about you. And there's not a single business owner, there's not a single entrepreneur that I have ever met that has said, I am getting way too much free publicity. I just can't stand all the free publicity I'm getting. I've yet to meet that person. And the reason is that we love it when the media talks about us, talks about our book, talks about our business, because that free publicity can be very powerful in generating customers for us. So we've got to get the media talking about you. And the one thing you should know is that the media want to use authorities and experts as their sources when they are writing stories or on assignment. So whether it's radio, television, or newsprint, the media is looking for a go-to expert that they can interview, that they can talk to, that they can source when they're working on important stories. And so if the media sees you as an authority, they're going to use you. If they don't see you as an expert and as an authority, then they're going to go find somebody else that they can interview.
Okay, Adam, so we've covered off pillars 1 and 2, content marketing, PR, and media. Talk us through pillar number 3.
Yeah, pillar number 3 is speaking. And this is a really important one because every trainer, every gym owner has the opportunity to speak, certainly in their local community. If I think in my local community, there's the Rotary Club and the Kiwanis Club and the Lions Club and every other type of organization that you can think of. In addition, we have Good Morning Charleston every morning. We have 2 morning radio shows in Charleston that I listen to regularly. And as a gym owner, as a personal trainer talking about health and wellness, there are myriad opportunities for you to speak to those audiences. Specifically in person, there's just such a great opportunity and a need for local speakers. So when you're invited to speak on a topic, to share your expertise, it does 2 things for you. Number one is, of course, it puts you on a platform. When you're invited to speak in front of peers or in front of colleagues or community members, it puts you in a category of 1 for that period of time. The other thing is that whenever you speak, I can tell you you're going to connect with people in that audience, and the people in that audience are going to want to do business with you. Maybe not all of them, but certainly some of them. In fact, most of our authors will tell you that speaking is one of the most effective ways that they generate clients for their business. So speaking is pillar number 3.
Adam, can I ask you, when you talk about speaking, the examples you gave were in-person examples. Do things like webinars and, say, Facebook Live or Instagram Live presentations, do they fall into that category as well?
They certainly do. I love virtual speaking opportunities as well. Now, the one thing that you need to remember is, where do your customers live? So if you are a local trainer, if you own a local gym and you are speaking or doing a webinar or a Facebook speech or a Facebook training, then ideally you want the majority of those people to be in your community so they actually have the ability to buy from you. One of the things I tell people is that the only person that it matters that you're an authority to is somebody that has the capacity and ability to give you money. And of course, I mean that, they have the ability to become a customer of yours. Because otherwise, if you're an authority to someone that'll never do business with you, well, that's good for your ego, but it's not really good for your pocketbook. And of course, authority marketing, we're here to help you grow your business. Growing your business is, of course, leveraging this authority position to generate new customers, to scale up and to grow your fitness business.
Great example. Okay, so we've covered off points 1, 2, and 3. What about pillar number 4?
So let's talk about events. And there's a wonderful opportunity for trainers and gym owners to do events. And of course, most of these would be local events. But when you do an event and when somebody travels to you, when they come to you, that puts you in a position of authority. Now, I'll use myself as an example. We do 2 big conferences a year in our business, and we have between 400 and 600 people come to these 2 annual events that we put on every year. And some people travel from as far as the Middle East, Europe. We have people that travel in from Australia. Our 2 events each year are in the United States. And so what I can tell you is that when somebody from Australia gets on an airplane, and probably when it's all said and done, will travel for 24 hours and probably spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get to my event. boy, I have real authority in that person's mind if they were willing to do that to be at my event. And so every trainer and every gym owner can do events of their own where people travel to you. Now, this is great because you own a gym. You can do events at your gym. When people travel to you, number one, they're making a commitment by giving you their time and by traveling to your location. But the second thing is that when they come to your event, that now creates an opportunity for you to build your authority. Of course, by you speaking, by you teaching, by you sharing your wisdom and knowledge with those people. So speaking is events, which tie directly in with speaking, but events are another one of those building blocks of authority marketing. And the other really important thing, and you'll see that many of the pillars of authority marketing, they tie together, they tie into each other. When you put on an event, if you're speaking or if you're teaching at that event, now you're combining an event with content marketing. And if you video record that event, now you're creating content marketing that can be distributed to a bigger audience. If you're taking pictures from that event and you're posting those pictures on social media or on your website, then you're going to begin to build what we call the fifth pillar of authority marketing, which is branding and omnipresence. And so branding and omnipresence, of course, is building your authority brand. And omnipresence is as if you're everywhere. You know, if somebody says, everywhere I turn, I feel like I see you or hear your name. That's what omnipresence is. And all of these things that we've discussed, speaking, content marketing, PR and media, all of those things help create omnipresence. And strategically building your authority brand is something that you should do with great care, but it's also something that helps ultimately build authority. And the big element of your authority brand is what we call your personal brand website. So if I Google your name, what will come up? The first question I always ask, and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, if I Google your name, will I have to pack a lunch? And of course, what I mean by that is, will I find so much content that I'm going to be at my computer for enough time where I'll need to eat lunch because I'll get hungry?
Yeah.
Or when I Google your name, does nothing come up? Now, one thing that I have gotten many times is, well, gee, Adam, I have a very common name. My name is Bradley Smith, and there's a lot of Bradley Smiths. And so I have a very simple answer to that. What is your middle name? And let's say your middle name is Preston. Now you're going to go by Bradley Preston Smith, right? You need to do something with your name to differentiate yourself so you become more searchable. The other thing that I'll share, if every person listening after this podcast is over doesn't own their own name as a website, then shame on you, because you're certainly not committed to success. You need to own your name as your website. So for me, you can go to adamwitty.com and you can learn more about me and my expertise. So every single person needs to own their personal brand as a domain name. They need to create their own personal brand website. And while you're at it, if you have children, I would tell you to buy the domain names for your children and your spouse too.
So does that rule apply if we're working under, because obviously that is super important for our personal brand, but if we're operating under a business brand, is that still important? And if so, why?
So I believe it is important. And I'll tell you why I believe it's important. So your personal brand is who you are. It's your expertise. It's your authority that, quite frankly, is with you until the day that you draw your last breath. And as you and I know, regardless of what country you're in, the number of companies that a person will affiliate themselves with over the course of a lifetime could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different organizations. And for me, I'm the founder and CEO of Advantage and Forbes Books. But I don't know what the future may hold. In 5 years or 10 years from now, I may no longer own that business. I have no idea. But I know that I'm going to own the brand Adam Witty until the day that I die. And so by crafting my personal brand, by building traffic and visibility to that personal brand website, no matter what company I might be affiliated with, it won't matter, because if I move to another gym, if I sell a gym and start a new one, I won't be starting from scratch. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't affiliate yourself closely with that gym or with that brand or with that company. It's perfectly okay. But I am a big advocate that every single person should have their own personal brand website.
And team, there is your second action for today's intensive. Action number 2 is to set up your own name as a website URL. Back to the interview now, where Adam is going to talk us through the next pillars. Okay,
so the last 2 pillars, the first 5 pillars really help drive success in pillars 6 and 7. Okay, so I want people to remember that. So pillar number 6 is lead generation. Every single listener is in the business of generating leads for their business. And the one thing I want you to remember is that, most people that get into business on their own, they get into business on their own because they really are passionate about what it is they do. I would imagine in the fitness industry, a lot of people get into the fitness business because they are enthusiasts for fitness. They're passionate about fitness. It's what they absolutely love. But what I want you to remember is that you are a marketer of your thing more so than a doer of your thing. Because ultimately, if you can't get customers to come into your gym or to come into your personal training studio or work with your personal training business, if you can't get enough people to pay you to do that, then you're not going to have a business. And so now your passion is a hobby. It's not really a business. So you need to be a marketer of your thing, not just a doer of your thing. Now, why is that important? Because every single person listening is in the business of generating leads, generating customers. And so all of the things that we talked about, content marketing, PR and media, speaking, branding and omnipresence, events, all of those things make it easier for you to generate leads. And of course, a lead is really somebody that learns who you are, they learn what you do, and they raise their hand and say, I'd like to learn more. I'm interested. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll become a customer, but they're at least saying, I want to open the door to learn more from you. And so you have to constantly be generating leads. The more authority you have, the easier it is to generate leads. Well, why is that? And that is because people are looking for solutions to problems. They're not looking to be sold something. And your job is to be seen by people that are interested in improving their level of fitness or getting in shape altogether. Your goal is to be seen by those people as a welcome guest rather an unwanted pest. And if you are a commodity, then they think you're going to just try to sell them something. And they want the lowest price, and they'll decide when they're ready to buy, and don't bother them. But if you're the man or woman that wrote the book on the topic, if you're the man or woman that they see every Tuesday morning on the morning TV show, if you're the man or woman that they hear on the radio all the time, if you're the man or the woman that they saw speak at the conference 2 weeks ago, then they want to do business with you. They're attracted to you magnetically because you're an authority. You have authority and authority position, and that's what they want. So All of those first 5 pillars really effectively help improve your ability to lead generate for your business. Pillar number 7. This will probably be the favorite pillar of most of our listeners, and that is what we call referral marketing. In fact, I would guess that most trainers and most gym owners, their best clients come from referrals. Mm-hmm. Existing clients are happy with the work. They tell their friends about you, and that turns into more business. And so here's the question that I ask. When your clients are at a dinner party with their friends, do they brag about you? And that's a question that you need to ponder. If the answer is no, then you are not getting nearly as many referrals as you possibly could. If the answer is yes, then you're probably getting a lot of referrals. So here's what I mean. Your clients want to impress their friends when they tell their friends that they train with you. The more authority position that you as the trainer have, the more bragging rights your customer has to tell their friends that they train with you. If you wrote a book, if you're on TV, radio, or in the newspaper, if you speak all over your community, if you put on events every month at your gym, if you are omnipresent where people see you everywhere they go, then all of those things give your clients reason to brag and be proud that they do business with you. If, on the other hand, as a trainer, you're just like everybody else, they're probably not going to mention your name at the dinner party on Friday night.
You mentioned right at the very beginning that you had an example of a fitness business that excelled at authority marketing. Could you share that case study with us?
Yeah, so I want to tell you about Liz Hilliard. And Liz Hilliard is the creator and owner of the Hilliard Studio Method. It's a private gym. It's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They cater primarily to females. And Liz found us a few years ago. She was a referral from an existing author, and she wrote and published a book with us, which is titled Be Powerful, Find Your Strength at Any Age. And Liz, who is, a bit more advanced in age, and of course, when I say that, if Liz was listening, she might slap me in the face. So I'll say that Liz is older than 40. But Liz's target audience for a lot of the women that train in her studio are people of that same age. Let's just call it probably 40, as high as 70. Mm-hmm. And so you notice the title of her book, Be Powerful, Find Your Strength at Any Age. One of the things that Liz knew is that as women aged, a lot of them fell into this trap of thinking that they could no longer be strong, they could no longer be fit. Quite frankly, they could maybe no longer be beautiful. And Liz completely shattered that myth and created a very innovative workout program where she helps women kind of redefine themselves and achieve strength and beauty and fantastic fitness regardless of their age. Liz wrote this book and has used this book very effectively as an authority building tool in the greater Charlotte area to get women that otherwise maybe would not have known who she was interested in her expertise and ultimately interested in becoming, of course, clients at the Hilliard Studio, which is her gym that she owns in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Amazing. Such a great story. And what I love about that is that it's a great reminder for us that regardless of where we are or who our niche market is or what our specialty is, we all have this opportunity to excel when it comes to authority marketing, providing we take on board the steps and the advice that you're sharing with us today. And of course, go out and read the book, which is super important as well. And we're going to be putting a link in today's show notes. So to finish off with today, Adam, Adam, I'm hoping that you will be able to leave us with 3 actions that gym owners can implement to start using authority marketing within their business.
Yeah, so one thing that I'll share is if you visit HilliardStudioMethod.com, it's a great case study and an example that other gym owners could follow. And you'll notice that she has the book featured on her website. Of course, you can buy the book on Amazon too. But you'll also notice she has a press section where you can see all the TV and publicity that she's gotten and how she's used her authority status to help get a lot of that publicity. So I share that only as a case study because I think it's such a good case study for all of the listeners to this podcast. Okay, so let's talk about 3 actions that you can take. The first action that you can take is you can decide. And what I want you to realize is that if you think that your peers will crown you king or queen, you're mistaken. If you think your friends and neighbors will crown you king or queen, you are mistaken. If you think that the marketplace will validate you as being an expert, the truth is you're mistaken. The people that build authority, that have authority at the highest level, are the men and women that have the guts to go out and grab it for themselves. And what I mean is that if you're walking down the street and on the sidewalk you came upon a crown that was on the sidewalk, you have to have the courage and the desire to pick up that crown, dust it off, and squarely place it on your head, not someone else's. And that doesn't mean that you have to be an egomaniac to take advantage of authority marketing. It's really quite the opposite. It is, if you have stories, if you have passion, if you have knowledge that you can share with the world, you owe it to the world to get a microphone and to speak that passion and that knowledge to people. And that's really what authority marketing is. So step number 1 is you've got to decide. Step number 2 is pick one of the pillars where you can start. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you don't have to do all 7. In fact, to many, it's probably overwhelming to think of all 7. So start with just one. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a blog that you're going to write. Maybe it's a speaking engagement that you're going to pursue. Start with just one, and systematically and strategically over time, build those blocks that ultimately create authority. The third and last thing that I'll share as a get started step is I want you to remember this quote. Life by the yard is really hard, but life by the inch is a cinch. And to build authority, it's something that happens over time. Unfortunately, what I've shared with you on this podcast, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to just magically make you famous overnight, nor is it going to magically just immediately start bringing customers into your business overnight. See, we're playing the long game here. We're building equity. We're building an asset, which is a business. And over time, as you build out authority for yourself, for your business, as you strategically implement more of these authority pillars in your business, you will ultimately discover true riches in a very significant way. But you've got to be patient and you've got to put in the work.
Adam, what an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I thoroughly enjoyed reading the book. I really, really loved having you on the show today. We are very grateful for your time. We'll be putting links to your website, to your books, obviously to Authority Marketing in today's show notes. So on behalf of all of the FBP family, thank you for joining us today.
Antal, what a great pleasure, and I had so much fun with you guys.
And there is your final action for today's interview. Action number 3 is to go over all of those 7 pillars and pick the ones that you want to start with. And most importantly, go and get started. Another huge thank you to Adam, and as mentioned earlier, I have included the links to Adam's website in today's show notes so you can go and purchase his books and find out more information. A reminder that in addition to the podcast, you can also download an ebook of today's intensive show. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, click on the tab at the top of the page called Intensive, then scroll down and press the button that says Access the ebook of this interview. It is super easy. Thank you all for joining me for this special edition of the ABC Financial Intensive Shows. Don't forget we have a huge library of intensive courses, including sales, financial management, how to start your own YouTube channel, video essentials, how to start your online personal training business, onboarding a new employee, and building a retention plan. You can find all of those located at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com under the Intensive tab. As always, I would love to hear what you thought about this latest show. So please email me at chantal@fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you once again for joining me. And until next time, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.